It's midnight in Paris. I'm Mark Owen. These are the main world news headlines from France 24. A photograph that shocks the world. But will it change the way Trump's America treats migrants? Two rival bills worth around $4.5 billion are being battered around Congress. How that cash will be spent is the key question. Matteo Salvini says the migrants on board the Dutch registered rescue boat Sea-Watch will not be allowed to land on Italian soil. They've been at sea for 10 days since being rescued from the sea off Libya. France is missing its own target on the climate. This is the country's baking in dangerous heatwave conditions. Temperatures far in excess of the norm for June, with 45 degrees forecast later today in the south of the country. Thank you very much for being with us. Venezuela says it's foiled an attempted coup d'etat. It's claimed there was a plot to assassinate the president, Nicolas Maduro, and install a general in his place. Our correspondent in Caracas, Ana Herrera, has more.
There are a few things that we know so far that Information Minister Jorge Rodriguez spoke about this Wednesday. Just to sum it up, he says that the government has at least 56 hours of recordings. We're talking about videos, audios, because they were planning this infiltration. They infiltrated different military among the military that were plotting against Nicolas Maduro, allegedly plotting against Nicolas Maduro for 14 months. So for 14 months, they knew about it. They followed the path, and they were able to frustrate this not only coup, but also assassination attempt against Nicolas Maduro. Now, the coup, according to Jorge Rodriguez, according to the information minister, was planned from Venezuela, but with the help of different cells from Colombia, from the United States, and from Israel. And not only Nicolas Maduro was the target, according to him, according to the government, also Diosdado Cabello and Freddy Bernal, two top men of the revolution of the government, were also targets in this assassination attempt / coup d'etat. The government trying to say that it's not only the United States, it's also Juan Guaidó, the person who is behind, who at least approved or knew about this assassination attempt. And that is the big thing here. Not only the coup attempt, because again, this is something, this frustration happens at least once a year, which also says a lot about how things are with the government. But the assassination attempt is what everyone right now is talking about. And if this is true, or at least if the government proves that this was happening and that Guaidó knew about it, now they would have definitely a strong card with them to at least arrest Juan Guaidó, which is the thing that they wanted to do since January.
Ana Herrera there in Caracas. Next, the harrowing photograph of a father and his young daughter washed up, drowned on the banks of the Rio Grande that has sparked more anger over the treatment of migrants trying to enter the United States. In the past year, 283 migrants have lost their lives trying to cross the US-Mexico border.
A photo which has made the human cost of the migrant crisis in Central America hit home for many around the world. Washed up on the banks of the Rio Grande, the bodies of a man and his 2-year-old daughter. According to local authorities, this is not the first such accident. While locals are wary of the river's undercurrents, migrants in desperation have tried to cross it before.
You see the river and it appears very calm. I think that was what gave the men confidence. But the Rio Grande has many deep undercurrents.
Back in El Salvador, where the family travelled from, his parents are grieving.
This is her favourite doll, this one.
The
last message he sent me was on Saturday. He said, "Mama, I love you." He said, "Take care of yourselves because we are fine here." When I read that message, I don't know, it made me want to cry because I saw it as a sort of goodbye.
It comes as conditions worsen. Several migrants, including babies, have died from exposure to soaring temperatures in recent weeks. as Mexico has stepped up a crackdown on immigration in response to US pressure, agreeing to reinforce its southern border with 6,000 National Guardsmen. Experts say increasingly desperate measures from people trying to enter Mexico or the US are now likely.
Staying with this story, two rival bills are being discussed on Capitol Hill to begin addressing the crisis, both worth around $4.5 billion. The key issue will be how the cash will be spent. The Democrats' bill came via the House of Representatives, of course, where they dominate. It was blocked by the Republican-dominated Senate, and a Republican bill is going in the reverse direction. We'll bring you more on that as we get it. Next, a clash is already in store over the migrants on board a German ship entering Italian waters. 42 migrants rescued off Libya 2 weeks ago are on board the vessel, the Sea-Watch. Italy's Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini says the migrants will not be allowed to land on Italian soil at Lampedusa.
They've sailed back and forth near Lampedusa for 2 weeks. Now they've entered Italian waters and are planning to disembark. On board the charity Sea-Watch 3 vessel, 42 migrants saved off Libya. The captain tweeted, "I decided to enter the port of Lampedusa. I know what I'm risking, but the 42 survivors I have on board are exhausted. I'm taking them to safety." Italy has banned the ship from entering its waters and docking in Lampedusa. Interior Minister Matteo Salvini said that if the ship does enter its port, the crew would be heavily fined. The migrants will be sent to the Netherlands.
This ship is flying a Dutch flag. It's unbelievable that the Dutch government doesn't care. It isn't respecting the law. They're endangering the lives of dozens of immigrants for a political game, a squalid and disgusting political game.
The European Court of Human Rights has rejected the migrants' appeal to enter Italy, but it has ruled that Italy should provide treatment to the most vulnerable people. The country's hardline government has adopted a closed ports policy, accusing NGOs of aiding migrant smugglers. 400 migrants have arrived with smaller boats in Italy in the past 2 weeks.
More on that story as we get it. Next, the heat wave here in France is about to get even hotter. Temperatures have been in excess of 30 degrees this Wednesday. They're set to rise even higher Thursday and into the weekend. The exceptionally hot weather is affecting the rest of Europe too. And fighting climate change and pollution, of course, starts with setting goals, taking measures that would cut down carbon emissions. That's what France's President Emmanuel Macron hopes to do next week at the G20 summit. But his strong statements on pollution come as a report shows France is not fulfilling its own pledges.
Paris has become a sort of symbol of the fight against climate change since the Paris Climate Agreement was signed in 2015. President Emmanuel Macron has defended that deal, especially since the US dropped out of it, and since it's been reported G20 countries would like to water down the fight against global warming in their meeting on Friday.
I have a red line. If we don't go further on our climate ambitions, then we are meeting for nothing.
But what are the results of France's policies against climate change so far? A report issued on Tuesday shows France isn't living up to its promises.
Well, it's certainly a champion for the objectives, so it has very high ambitions. But unfortunately, so far, it hasn't met its objective. Even though the emissions are decreasing in France, they're not decreasing fast enough.
France has cut down its greenhouse gas emissions, but only by 1.1%, half its target. Policies are reportedly too weak. Authorities have been unable to make transportation greener, for example. It accounts for about 30% of emissions. Building heating represents about 20% of emissions. France needs to better isolate its homes to limit thermal losses. The report also recommends suspending all financial aid for fossil fuels. Authorities will have to tackle other factors that are not even taken into account in the report, like exports, the transport of goods across the globe. They're believed to be the cause of some 60% of all emissions.
Here at France 24, watching all developments for you on the issue of climate change. For more news, stay with us.